Welcome to Dateline Schools, a presentation of the St. Clair County Regional Educational Service Agency, with your host, Terry Harrington.
Thank you for joining us in this edition of Dateline Schools. Do we ever have a special program for you? As you know, education is dramatically changing, whether locally or around the world. And St. Clair County educators recently had the opportunity to learn from one of the people leading this international change. And coming up on our program, joining us will be British Professor Stephen Heppell. He'll be here to tell us what is actually happening in education around the world, give us a glimpse of his vision for education in the future. We'll also learn about the upcoming third annual 21st Century Learning Symposium that St. Clair County RESA is sponsoring, as Joanne Hopper will also be here from St. Clair County RESA to tell us all about that program. But first, let's tune in to this education update.
Thanks, Terry. The first group of students to complete the three-year St. Clair County Math and Science Academy program were honored for their achievement at a recent ceremony. 15 students from high schools around the county were awarded plaques and commended for their participation in the program. The completing students were sophomores when they entered the academy, which offers college-level math and science classes to students meeting the rigorous admission standards. Academy classes are conducted on the campus of St. Clair County Community College and taught by college instructors. Kids and parents looking for fun ways to spend part of their summer vacations can now enjoy extended hours at the Pine River Nature Center. The center is open on the second Saturday of each month through September so that people have plenty of chances to explore all the center has to offer. Saturday dates are July 10th, August 14th, and September 11th from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. The Nature Center is adjacent to the Goodles County Park in Wales Township. It is owned and operated by the St. Clair County RESA. More information about summer and fall offerings at the Nature Center is available by going to the RESA website. Educators around the county are already preparing for the new school year. A number of them will gather next month for the third annual 21st Century Learner Symposium. The symposium features several national experts discussing the impact of technology on the classroom and today's students. In addition to several workshop sessions, the symposium will feature presentations from local students who will demonstrate how they use 21st century technology to assist their learning. For more information on other professional development offerings, go to the workshop calendar on the RESA website. The first of 3 wind turbines to be used as part of the Energy Technologies and Services program at Tech is nearing completion. Workers erected the pole and turbine at the Great Lakes Maritime Center at Vantage Point in Port Huron. Once completed, the turbine will provide wind speed and direction data that will be downloaded on the RESA website. Also available on the site will be readings from local solar panels and weather stations, one of which is already in use at Tech. Energy Technologies and Services students will use the readings as part of their training in sustainable alternative energy sources. Wind turbines and solar panels are also scheduled to be installed at RESA and the Pine River Nature Center. And finally, although summer has just started, it's not too early to plan for the fall. Mark Tuesday, September 7th on your calendar. It's the first day of school for the 2010-2011 school year in St. Clair County. Teachers will be back preparing their classrooms the week of August 30th. That's all for this edition of Education Update. I'm Yvette Pichet. Terry Harrington and Dateline Schools will return in a moment.
Welcome back to Dateline Schools. In this segment of the program, we have a really unique opportunity today to learn how schools throughout the world are really changing the face of education. To help us do that, meeting with us today is Stephen Heppell from England, and he was here recently to share his story and what schools are doing around the world with local educators here in St. Clair County. And Stephen, welcome to Dateline Schools.
Oh, hi. Hi.
See, just help us get to know you a little bit better. Just kind of give us a little bit of your background.
Oh, that's a hard thing. That would fill the show, really. I mean, I've got quite innovative projects in new school design running around the world. I spent a lot of time building online communities in the 80s and 90s. I'm very old, as viewers will see. You know, these are lines and patina, you know. And I work with governments around the world, helping them to be a little more ambitious with their learning. There's a lot of people out there just doing learning, but there's not many that are really embracing how good it might be. So I just kind of prod and poke and push. And the result of that is I'm building schools and changing whole nations, and also working with families and kids. So having the time of my life, actually.
I can imagine. And really, education, whether it's in the United States or back in the UK or elsewhere, really isn't much different from place to place, other than the faces may change a little bit, right?
There was a time, I think, you could get away with at conference with saying something like, you know, if you parachuted a teacher from 100 years ago into today's classroom, they'd still know what they were doing. But just now, I think it's changing really quickly. I think we've, I mean, golly gosh, look, we're, you know, we're a decade into the 21st century already. If you're a 9-year-old, you've only ever been in this century. So
Sure.
People talk about 21st century learning is a bit late, you know, here we are, you know. And some of those new approaches to learning are very, very different, you know. Some one-to-one teaching, some children teaching each other, some learning in really large groups. I was in a kindergarten the other day with 120 children in the kindergarten, kids, teachers, assistants all over the place. The whole thing going like an express train, smile on everybody's face, you know. So I do think now, if you parachuted in from 100 years ago, you'd be terrified and go and hide in a corner. And the truth is, there aren't very many corners, because these are big open spaces now, in a new kind of way. You know.
Now, you were here to meet with local educators throughout St. Clair County, had superintendents and curriculum people and technology folks and principals, and I mean, it was a good mix of educators from all the 7 districts here in the county. What was the message that you brought to the local educators?
I guess the first message was, thank goodness they were all mixed together, because this isn't something you can do on your own. You know, teachers can't do this without parents. Parents and teachers can't do it without the children, the learner's voice being there. You need your geeks, you need people who are administrators, everybody needs to be in this together. And my message is pretty gentle, really. I mean, I'm quite a conservative old chap, really. I think the wild, radical stuff was what we did between 1950 and 2000, when we thought we could turn learning into a kind of teaching factory, and we sat children in rows and delivered the curriculum to them. And some fool somewhere in all that thought that that would be engaging, because what we've seen are children who are disengaged from education. They still love learning, but they're not doing much learning in school. So in my gentle way, I'm just saying some of the stuff that we used to do, you know, probably wasn't that smart. Putting 30 children in a room because they're born between 2 Septembers is, you know, you don't have to be very clever to think, why were we doing that again? Just remind me. You know? So my gentle message was, come on, let's think again about some of this stuff, and let's look around the world for some of the many, many, many tested ingredients that are already working with kids in Tasmania, in China, in Singapore, everywhere. Let's bring some of those ingredients home and let's build a local recipe. It will be a local recipe. There's nowhere in the world like this. There's nowhere in the world like anywhere. You know, there's no child the same, there's no school the same, there's no family the same. There is no one size fits all. But let's nick some of those ingredients and build a great recipe, and that was my message, really.
Yeah, and I know that whole recipe analogy you were using was great all through the presentation. Just give us a glimpse of what are some of the key ingredients into that recipe that really makes it click.
You know, there are so many, people watching this will be amused to hear that one of my favourites is shoeless schools. You know, there's something quite spectacularly effective about children learning with their shoes off. And I'm not very sure of the science of that. I was joking earlier that the boys' testosterone seems to lurk in their shoes. When they take their shoes off, they become calmer, nicer people in a lovely kind of way, you know. But there's something calming about that. There's something that's just like home, you know. And with technology, you know, we've seen so many schools where the children take their phone out and the teachers say, I'll confiscate that, you know. And, but we know, I think now, with absolute certainty that a switched off device is a switched off child. And maybe the devil makes work for idle thumbs. You know, if we don't give them things to do with their phones, they'll think of things, and maybe the things they think of aren't quite as smart as the ones we might have suggested. So, you know, there's a whole mass of stuff about this is a tech-rich world that we're in. It is a global world. Children need to learn with each other around the world. So good, just learning with your mates here, because the world of work you're going to go out into is a global place. So, you know, it's global, it's seductive, it's delightful, it's reflective, it's going to keep changing. You know, people watching this will go to the dentist and they're never going to come back and say, why can't the dentist be like it was when I was a child? Because that way lies terror.
Sure.
You know, for me, nobody should think that of their schools. You wouldn't wish a 1960s dentist on your kid. You shouldn't wish a 1960s school on them, or you wouldn't wish 1960s brakes on your car, would you? I mean, just none of those things. We're here now. Let's do it the modern way.